Sam wanted to show that the gas breathed out by mice contains carbon dioxide. He prepared two setups, as shown below. The mice were identical. Each sealed tank was connected to a sealed beaker of lime water. Lime water will turn chalky in the presence of carbon dioxide. After an hour, Sam observed that the lime water in setup X was less chalky than in setup Y. Which of the following explains his observation? B. The delivery tube in setup was long enough to bring the carbon dioxide into the lime water. D. The delivery tube in setup X was narrower than that in setup Y. Hence, the carbon dioxide took a longer time to flow from the tank to the beaker in setup X. Explanation: with less lime water to react with the same amount of carbon dioxide, the lime water should turn more chalky. The two mice were identical, so they should produce the same amount of carbon dioxide. Helen wrote down some notes about living things. The following notes are correct. B. Animals breathe all the time. C. When animals breathe, they take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. D. Plants need carbon dioxide, water, and light to carry out photosynthesis. Explanation: plants breathe during the day and at night. Like all living things, fish need to breathe to stay alive. Lung capacity is the amount of air a lung can take in when we breathe. Doreen wanted to measure the lung capacity of her friends. She inverted a glass bottle into a tank of water. When the glass bottle was completely filled with water, she asked each of her friends to take a deep breath and blow into the glass bottle using a straw. The following indicates the capacity of Doreen's friends' lungs. The volume of air in the glass bottle. Explanation: when her friends blow into the glass bottle, the air from their lungs will take up space in the glass bottle and push down the water level in the glass bottle. Thus, the volume of air in the glass bottle will be equal to the capacity of their lungs. During the test, Doreen asked her friends to use a soft nose clip on their nose. What was the function of the soft nose clip? 1. To prevent air from escaping through the nose. Explanation: as the person breathes out through the mouth, some air may escape through the nose. This will result in an inaccurate test. 4 of Doreen's friends took the test to measure their lung capacity, and their results were recorded in a graph as shown below. Doreen made the following conclusions based on the results of the experiment. The following of Doreen's conclusions are correct. Peter has a larger lung capacity than the rest of his friends. D. Peter is able to take in more air at every breath. Explanation: Joyce has a slightly larger lung capacity than Mark. Bernice's lung capacity is the smallest.
Billy wanted to test if air and water are needed for iron nails to rust. He prepared 5 setups, as shown below, and left them aside for 2 weeks. What is wrong with the setups? The aluminum nails in beaker should be replaced with iron nails. Explanation: aluminum nails do not rust. The purpose of this experiment is to find out what causes iron nails to rust. Billy was told that he needed only some of the setups to carry out the experiment. Which are the setups that he should use? C, D, and E only. Explanation: he needs only the setups that contain air only, water only, and air and water. Study the diagram below. Which one of the following correctly identifies animals A, B, C, and D? Explanation: a whale is not a fish. Which statements correctly state the similarities and differences between a shark and a platypus? B. Both the shark and the platypus have streamlined bodies. C. The shark breathes through its gills, while the platypus breathes through its lungs. D. The shark has fins, but the platypus does not. Explanation: the shark is a fish, while the platypus is a mammal. The gills of a fish are rich in blood vessels. What are the functions of these blood vessels? B. They help the fish to absorb oxygen. D. They help the fish to release carbon dioxide into the surrounding water. Explanation: the blood vessels help in the exchange of gases between the fish and its surroundings. Study the diagram below. A piece of raw fish was placed in a sealed gas jar. A delivery tube connected the gas jar to a sealed beaker containing lime water. The setup was left on a table for 3 days. After 3 days, the raw fish decomposed and the lime water in the beaker turned chalky. What was the aim of the experiment? To show that carbon dioxide is produced during decomposition. Explanation: lime water turns chalky in the presence of carbon dioxide. Therefore, the aim of the experiment was to show that carbon dioxide is produced during decomposition.
Mrs. Lim wanted to know which of her sons, John or Kelvin, has a larger lung capacity. She asked John, who was reading, and Kelvin, who had just returned from a jog, to blow into the setups she prepared, which are as shown below. Mr. Lim commented that the test was unfair. Which of the following are likely reasons that the test was unfair? John and Kelvin were involved in different activities before the test, so their breathing rate and capacity would be affected. B. There was some air in the beaker in setup B before the start of the test. D. The straw in setup was not properly positioned and might cause some air to escape instead of bubbling into the beaker. Explanation: if the beakers were raised above the water level in the troughs, the water in the beakers would flow out. Li Ling placed a plant in a sealed glass tank in a garden. Using a device, she measured and recorded the amounts of the different gases in the air in the tank during the day and at night over a period of 24 hours. The graphs below show the amounts of the gases in the tank in the day and at night. Based on the graphs, the following statements are true. The amount of nitrogen remained unchanged throughout the experiment. C. The plant was able to photosynthesize in the presence of light and produce oxygen. Explanation: the plant breathed during the day and at night. Brandon wanted to find out how the activity that a person is involved in affects her breathing rate. He used a mask with a device to measure his breathing rate while he was engaged in different activities. He carried out each activity over a period of half an hour and calculated his average breathing rate. He plotted the results on a graph. Which one of the following graphs shows Brandon's likely breathing rates during the different activities that he carried out? Explanation: running is a vigorous exercise. The breathing rate will be higher than when he is watching television or sleeping. Linda prepared 3 setups as shown below. After 3 hours, she noticed that the drop of ink in setups B and C had moved slightly towards the gas jar. A. What was the purpose of setup A? To serve as a control and show that the movement of the drop of ink in setups B and C was due to the germinating seeds and mealworms, and not other factors. B. Why did the drop of ink in setups B and C move towards the gas jar? The oxygen in the gas jars of setups B and C was used up by the germinating seeds and mealworms. The air outside the gas jars then pushed the drops of ink towards the gas jars. C. Was there a change in the amounts of oxygen and nitrogen at the end of the experiment? Fill in the table below with the words increased, decreased, or remained the same.
Kumar set up an experiment as shown below. He connected the outlet of an air pump to beaker which contained lime water. At the same time, he blew into beaker B, which contained lime water. Where did the air from the outlet of the air pump come from? From the surrounding air. B. What will happen to the beakers of lime water after a while? The lime water in beaker will remain clear, while the lime water in beaker B will turn chalky. C. What can Kumar conclude from the experiment? The air we breathe out contains more carbon dioxide than the surrounding air. Sally prepared two setups, A and B, as shown below. She lit the candles and covered them with beakers. She then poured water into the troughs. After a while, the flames extinguished and some water entered both beakers. She used a stopwatch to record the time taken for the flames to extinguish in both setups. Why did the water enter the beakers after the flames extinguished? Oxygen is needed for burning. As the candles were burning, oxygen in the beakers was being used up. Water entered the beakers to take up the space that was previously occupied by oxygen. B. Sally recorded the volume of water in each beaker and the time taken for each flame to be extinguished. She then plotted the results on a graph as shown below. What can Sally conclude from the experiment? When there are more candles in the beaker, the time taken for the flame to extinguish is shorter. Study the diagram below. Identify the part labeled A. It is a tiny opening. B. What is the function of part A? It allows air to flow in and out of the plant. It allows gaseous exchange to occur between the plant and its surroundings. C. Why is powder usually found on the underside of a leaf? To avoid too much heat from the sun in order to prevent water from the plant from evaporating too fast.
Jason wanted to find out if oxygen is taken in when a person breathes in. He wore a mask which was able to measure the amounts of oxygen and carbon dioxide he breathed in and breathed out. However, the results showed that the amount of carbon dioxide he breathed in was the same as the amount of carbon dioxide he breathed out. What could be the reason for his finding? Jason did not wear the mask properly, or the mask was faulty. B. If the air that Jason breathed in was compared to the air he breathed out, what should have been the results of the experiment? Fill in the table below with the words increased, decreased, or remained the same. Natalie wanted to find out how the number of animals in a setup affects the rate at which oxygen is used up. She prepared two tanks, A and B. She put 10 white mice in tank A and 2 white mice in tank B. A device for measuring the amount of oxygen was placed in each tank before the tanks were sealed. State two variables that should be kept constant to ensure a fair test. The size of the white mice. The size of the tanks. B. The amount of oxygen in each tank was recorded. The graphs below show the results of the experiment. Identify the graphs for tanks A and B. Tank A, graph Y. Tank B, graph X. The diagram below shows the circulation of blood in the human body. The arrows indicate the direction in which the blood moves. Which of the following arrows is incorrect? 4. D. Explanation: blood from all parts of the body does not return straight to the lungs. The blood returns to the heart first and then flows to the capillaries in the lungs to remove carbon dioxide and absorb oxygen from the lungs. Oxygen and food are essential for our body to function. Which of the following systems ensures that oxygen and digested food are transported to all parts of the body? Circulatory system. Explanation: the circulatory system uses blood to carry oxygen from the lungs and digested food from the digestive system to all parts of the body that require them. The function of the respiratory system is to absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide. The digestive system digests food taken in by the body and then absorbs the nutrients required by the body for life processes to take place. The nervous system allows the body to detect changes in the environment and respond to them. Which two of the following systems work together to supply oxygen to and remove carbon dioxide from all parts of the body? C. Respiratory system. D. Circulatory system. Explanation: the respiratory system allows oxygen to be absorbed into the blood, which is in turn passed to the rest of the body via the circulatory system. It also removes carbon dioxide from the blood. Which of the following is carried by the blood in our blood vessels? 1. Oxygen. 2. Digested food. 4. Carbon dioxide. Explanation: our blood carries substances which the body needs, such as oxygen, water, and nutrients, to all parts of the body, as well as waste substances, such as carbon dioxide and toxins to be removed from the body. The blood, however, carries water in a liquid form. It does not carry water vapor, which is the gaseous form of water. Which of the following gases is found in the air that we breathe in? Oxygen. Explanation: the air that we breathe in from the atmosphere is made up of nitrogen and oxygen. Chlorine, ammonia, and hydrogen are not found in the air. Which of the following is removed from our lungs when we breathe out? Carbon dioxide. Explanation: carbon dioxide is a waste product of respiration. Which of the following carries the air that we breathe in from the nostrils to the windpipe? Explanation: the tract joining the nasal tract to the lungs is called the windpipe. It is also known as the trachea. Which of the following moistens the inhaled air in the respiratory tract? Mucus. Explanation: the respiratory tract contains only mucus. Saliva is only found along the digestive tract. Water vapor is found in the atmosphere. Blood only flows through the blood vessels. Which of the following is the sudden action of inhaling air due to contractions of the diaphragm? Hiccup. Explanation: hiccups occur as spasms of contractions in the diaphragm. Which of the following connects the arteries to the veins? Capillaries. Explanation: capillaries link arteries to veins via a fine network of blood vessels.
Study the diagram below that shows the human respiratory system and its parts. E. Which of the labeled parts shows the windpipe? State the function of the windpipe. A. The function of the windpipe is to transport inhaled air from the nostrils to the lungs. B. Identify the gas that is passed into the blood from the lungs. Oxygen. C. The air sacs in the lungs provide a very large surface area for the absorption of oxygen into the blood. Explain why the large surface area is necessary. The large surface area is necessary so that a large amount of oxygen can be absorbed by the body and carbon dioxide can be removed from the body in a short time. What is the main function of blood? Blood transports oxygen, digested food and water to the cells and accepts carbon dioxide and waste materials from the cells to be removed. B. When blood is bright red, what does this tell us about the red blood cells? It means that the red blood cells are rich in oxygen. C. Why do you see large purplish tubes in the lower legs of older or inactive people? This is because some of the valves in the veins of these people have broken down, thus blood collects in these parts. These veins are called varicose veins. E. What are the characteristics of the air that reaches our lungs? The air that reaches the lungs is moist, clean and warm. B. Describe how oxygen is supplied to all parts of the body, starting from breathing in through the nose. As air is breathed in through the nose, it is filtered by the hairs in the nose. Mucus in the respiratory tract helps to remove germs and moistens the air. The air then travels through the windpipe to the lungs. The blood in the blood vessels found in the lungs absorbs oxygen from the air that we breathe in. The blood that is rich in oxygen will then flow to the heart to be pumped to all parts of the body. How are arteries and veins connected? Arteries and veins are connected via the capillaries. B. Why are arteries stronger and thicker than capillaries? Arteries carry blood, which is under high pressure. C. What is the function of the heart in our body? The heart pumps blood to all parts of the body. If a person is sitting idly, why do they still have to breathe? He needs to breathe in order for the processes in his body to function. B. What would happen to a plant that is left inside of a tightly sealed box in a dark room? As it is dark, the plant would obtain its energy from respiration only. The air in the box would gradually be depleted of oxygen and would become saturated with carbon dioxide that is given out during respiration. Without fresh air to provide more oxygen, the lack of oxygen will eventually cause the plant to die.
E. What is the diaphragm? The diaphragm is a layer of muscle that separates the chest from the abdomen. B. Describe how the diaphragm helps our lungs take in and give out air. When we breathe in, the diaphragm contracts and this causes the lungs to expand and air to be pulled in. When we breathe out, the diaphragm relaxes, the lungs contracts and air is pushed out. The following statements about the heart are true. It has strong muscles to pump blood around the body. Explanation: a heart has no bones. The heart is protected by the rib cage. The exchange of gases occurs in the lungs and not the heart. The heart is found between the lungs.
The diagrams below show 4 people involved in some activities. Their heart rates were measured and recorded in a graph as shown below. Which one of the following correctly identifies A, B, C, and D? 2. A. Matthew, B. Peter, C. Jack, D. Tom. Explanation: a toddler has a higher heart rate than a boy. A boy who is involved in a vigorous activity has a higher heart rate than a boy who is not. Study the diagram below. Blood samples W, X, Y, and Z are taken at the same time from the blood vessels of a person. The blood samples are tested for the amount of carbon dioxide they contain. The results of the test are plotted on a bar graph as shown below. Based on the diagram and the bar graph, which blood sample is not tested properly? W. Explanation: the level of carbon dioxide in blood sample W should be the lowest, since it has just left the lungs, where carbon dioxide is removed from the blood. John wanted to find out the relationship between age and heart rate. He decided to measure the heart rate of some members of his family. Which of the following would ensure that the experiment was accurate? A. All the members should be involved in the same activity. C. All the members should be healthy. Explanation: the aim of this experiment is to test the relationship between the age and heart rate of different people. Therefore, the variable to be changed is the age. All the other variables should remain constant. The heart rate is also affected by the health of a person. John followed the necessary steps in carrying out the experiment. He recorded the results in a table, as shown below. He transferred the results from the table to a graph as shown below. What had John done wrongly when plotting the graph? He should have converted the age from 12 months to 1 year before plotting on the graph. B. He should have converted the result of 65 beats per 30 seconds to 130 beats per minute. Explanation: before plotting the results on the graph, John should have converted all the results to the same units. What can John conclude from his experiment? The heart rate decreases with age. Explanation: there is a relationship between age and heart rate since the results show a pattern.
Helen wants to feel her pulse. She can feel it. C. On her wrist. D. On her neck. Explanation: the blood vessels in our body can be easily felt on our wrists and necks. The diagram below shows the different systems of the body. Which one of the following correctly identifies the systems of the body? 4. W. Respiratory system. X. Circulatory system. Y. Digestive system. Explanation: digested food from the digestive system and oxygen from the respiratory system are absorbed into the blood in the circulatory system, which then transports it to different parts of the body. Study the diagrams below. The blood vessels in humans have the same functions as the water-carrying tubes and food-carrying tubes in plants. Explanation: the water-carrying tubes and food-carrying tubes transport water and food to different parts of the plant. Which of the following statements about blood vessels are true? B. Some blood vessels carry blood to the heart, while some carry blood away from the heart. C. They carry water, digested food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and waste materials to different parts of the body. Explanation: the blood vessels that carry blood from the heart to other parts of the body have thicker walls than the blood vessels that carry blood back to the heart. The graph below shows James' heart rate before and after exercise. After resting for about 10 minutes, his heart rate went back to his normal average rate. Based on the graph above, the following statements are true. A. His normal heart rate is below 60 beats per minute. B. James started exercising at Q. D. His heart rate was above 90 beats per minute during exercise. Explanation: he started exercising at Q and exercised for 25 minutes. Sam attended lessons in different classrooms. All the classrooms were of similar size, and all the windows and doors were closed. Each classroom had different numbers of pupils who were of the same age. After spending 1 hour in each classroom, Sam measured his heart rate and recorded it in a table as shown below. Based on the results shown in the table, arrange the classrooms according to the number of pupils in each classroom, beginning with the fewest. B, D, A, C. Explanation: with more pupils in an enclosed classroom, there was less oxygen in the classroom, so Sam breathed in less oxygen per breath. His heart rate increased to help transport more oxygen around his body.
The diagram below shows some tiny blood vessels in a finger. Blood flows from X to Y through the tiny blood vessels. Which of the following describe the blood at X and Y correctly? A, C and E only. Explanation: blood transports oxygen, digested food, and water to different parts of the body. It also transports carbon dioxide and waste materials away from the different parts of the body. Which of the following statements correctly describe what happens to the blood when it enters the lungs? B. The blood takes in oxygen from the lungs. C. Carbon dioxide is removed from the blood and enters the lungs. Explanation: the blood that enters the lungs is rich in carbon dioxide and poor in oxygen. In the lungs, the blood removes the carbon dioxide and takes in oxygen. Fill in the blanks below with the words from the box. Blood rich in oxygen travels from the lungs to the heart. Blood poor in oxygen will travel back to the lungs. Blood rich in oxygen travels from the heart to other parts of the body. Blood poor in oxygen travels from other parts of the body to the heart. Digestion is completed in the small intestine. The digested food passes through the lining of the small intestine and enters the blood. It is carried to all parts of the body. The diagram below shows partly how the blood flows in the human body. The graph below shows the amount of digested food in the blood from blood vessel S. Using the diagram above, complete the graph to show the amount of digested food in the blood from blood vessels P, Q, and R. B. What happens to the digested food in the blood? The digested food in the blood is absorbed by the different parts of the body and is used to release energy. Lauren measured her heart rate and found it to be 70 beats per minute. She jogged on a track for half an hour and measured her heart rate again. What was Lauren's likely heart rate after jogging? Accept answers between 85 and 110 beats per minute. B. Explain your answer in A. When she was jogging, more energy was needed. Her heart rate increased to help carry more oxygen and digested food to different parts of her body for more energy to be released. C. After resting for half an hour, Lauren's heart rate returned to 70 beats per minute. Explain your answer. When at rest, her body did not require as much digested food and oxygen as when she was jogging. So her heart rate decreased and returned to normal.
Megan measured the heart rate of some of her classmates after they took part in various activities. She recorded the results in a table, as shown below. A. Use Megan. B. Megan noted that all her classmates had the same heart rate before they took part in their respective activities. Based on the results from the graph, state which classmate was involved in the most vigorous activity before taking her heart rate. Explain your answer. Classmate E. Her heart rate is the highest. Coronary heart disease is caused by the buildup of fatty deposits on the inner walls of the blood vessels that supply blood to the heart. Explain why this is a serious health problem. The fatty deposits narrow the blood vessels, reducing the flow of blood to the heart. A heart is made up of numerous muscles. It pumps blood through itself by contracting and relaxing its muscles. The heart is squeezed when its muscles contract. It expands when its muscles relax. The diagrams below show a heart pumping blood. The heart pumps blood to other parts of the body. What substances does the blood transport? Blood transports digested food, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other waste materials to different parts of the body. B. What is happening to the heart muscles and blood in diagram A? The heart muscles are contracting, and the blood in the heart is pumped out to other parts.
Which of the following correctly shows the path of carbon dioxide before a person breathes out through the nose? Blood vessels, air sacs in lungs, windpipe. Some children made the following statements about the respiratory system. Which of the children made a correct statement? David, Elliot, and Fiona only. Air enters the respiratory system at A. Oxygen will be absorbed into the bloodstream at C. Carbon dioxide will be removed from the bloodstream at C. The diagram below shows the human respiratory system with parts labeled A and B. Which one of the following correctly states the functions of A and B during breathing? 3. A. Nose filters the air before it enters the lungs. B. Lungs takes in oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. Read the following description of the human breathing process below. Arrange the description in the correct order to describe what happens when a person breathes in and out. EDECB. Air enters the body through the nose. D. Air travels through the windpipe and the lungs take in oxygen. Oxygen passes into the blood and is transported to other parts of the body. C. Blood transport carbon dioxide to the lungs. B. Air leaves the body through the nose. State the function of the human respiratory system. The human respiratory system helps the body to absorb oxygen from the air and remove waste gases, such as carbon dioxide, from the blood through the process of gas exchange. B. The air sacs are surrounded by many blood vessels. What is the function of these blood vessels? The blood vessels will quickly transport oxygen from the air sacs to the rest of the body. Carbon dioxide in the blood can also be quickly removed by traveling through the air sacs and out of the nose.
A group of students set up an experiment to find out whose lungs can hold the most air. The bottle was fully filled with water. Hansen took a deep breath and blew as much air as possible through the straw. The height, h, of the air in the bottle was measured. The experiment was repeated by Ivan and Jacob respectively. Arrange the boys in increasing order for the amount of air they blew out. Hansen, Jacob, Ivan. B. From the table, deduce the relationship between the height of air in the bottle to the lung capacity of the boys. The greater the height of air in the bottle, the larger the lung capacity of the boys. C. Predict who is able to hold his breath underwater for the shortest period. Hansen. When someone has an injured lung, that lung cannot expand fully. The diagram shows the lungs of a person with a healthy lung and an injured lung. Describe how oxygen in the surrounding air enters the lungs. Oxygen in the surrounding air enters the human body through the nose. It travels down the windpipe into the lungs. B. Name the two gases that are exchanged in the lungs when a person breathes. Oxygen and carbon dioxide. C. A person with an injured lung breathes more quickly than a person with healthy lungs. Explain why this happens, based on the functions of the lungs. The injured lung is smaller and can only take in a smaller volume of gas. Hence, the person has to increase his rate of breathing to take in enough oxygen to support his body functions. Which one of the following describes what happens to his ribcage and diaphragm when the boy is blowing into his trumpet to produce a sound? 2. Ribcage, move in and downwards. Diaphragm, move upwards. The picture shows Hermione playing a flute. Which of the following describes the size of her chest cavity and the movement of air caused by her chest muscles as she blows into the flute? 2. Chest cavity, smaller. Movement of air, air leaves lungs. Gary made a model, as shown in the diagram, to illustrate the human respiratory system. Write down the organs in the human respiratory system that represents the parts on the model. Plunger, diaphragm. Balloon, lungs. B. What will happen to the balloon when the plunger is pulled back? Explain your answer. When the plunger is pulled back, the volume of the space in the tube increases. Air will rush into the balloons to fill up the additional volume in the tube. Adeline wrote down some statements on the topic air as a mixture of gases, as shown below. Which of the following statements about the air around us are correct? Air contains about 78% of nitrogen. The pie chart below shows the composition of gases in the air. Which of the following are true of gas Y, oxygen? Needed for respiration. D. Produced during photosynthesis.
Leroy is a mountain climber. He conducted a study to investigate the relationship between the percentage of oxygen in the air and the altitude. The term altitude refers to the height above sea level of a certain location. Using a data logger with an oxygen sensor, he recorded his findings in the table. Based on this information, what is the relationship between the altitude and percentage of oxygen in the air? As the altitude increases, the percentage of oxygen in the air decreases. B. Lyra advised mountain climbers not to climb up a tall mountain too quickly. Based on the findings, do you agree with him? Explain your answer. Yes. At higher altitude, the percentage of oxygen is lower and thus, a person will need to breathe more quickly to take in enough oxygen for respiration. Christy inhaled a deep breath of air before she blew into a balloon. The amounts of carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen and water vapor in the deep breath she inhaled are the same as compared to the surrounding air. Explain why. Gas exchange does not take place at the nose. Hence, the composition of all the gases remains unchanged. What happens to the air before Christy blew into the balloon? The air travels down Christy's windpipe into the lungs. Gas exchange takes place in the air sacs. Oxygen moves from the air sac to the blood in the capillaries, and carbon dioxide moves from the blood in the capillaries to the air sacs. State in the table below if the amounts of carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen and water vapor in the air blown into the balloon has increased, decreased or remain unchanged as compared to that of the surrounding air. Carbon dioxide increased. Oxygen decreased. Nitrogen remain unchanged. Water vapor increased. When we exhale, the percentage of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water vapor changes. Only the percentage of nitrogen stays the same. Michael was trapped in a lift with his friend for 1 hour due to a lift breakdown. The ventilation fan in the lift broke down too. The amount of gas X would remain unchanged after 1 hour. Name a possible answer for gas X. Gas X, nitrogen. B. The amount of gas Y decreased after 1 hour. Name gas Y and explain why the amount of gas decreased. Oxygen. Michael and his friend would need to take in oxygen from the air in the lift for respiration. Thus, the amount of oxygen in the lift decreased after 1 hour. C. The amount of gas Z increased after 1 hour. Name gas Z and state one other use of the gas. Carbon dioxide. Plants need to take in carbon dioxide during the process of photosynthesis to make food. D. After 1 hour, the two friends' breathing rate increased. Explain why. There is less oxygen in the air. Hence, their breathing rate increased as they need to breathe more quickly to take in enough oxygen for respiration. Exhaled air has more heat than inhaled air.
The diagram shows the human respiratory system. Y represents the air that enters the body, while Z represents the air that leaves the body. The following statement about Y and Z is correct. Z contains oxygen and other gases. The table shows the composition of atmospheric air. Which of the following most likely shows the composition of exhaled air when a person is doing vigorous exercise? 3. Explanation: when we exhale, the percentage of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water vapor changes. Only the percentage of nitrogen stays the same. A group of coal miners were trapped in an underground cave. Which one of the following graph best represents the composition of gases in the air inside the cave after 2 hours? 2. 6 adults were trapped in a small lift for a period of time. They were still calm and sat still in the lift during the first 15 minutes. The graph below shows the amount of two different gases, A and B, in the air in the lift at different time periods. A. Name gas A. Nitrogen. B. After 20 minutes, the lift still did not move. The adults started to knock and kick the lift door, and gas B began to decrease more quickly than before. Identify gas B and explain why it decreased more quickly after 20 minutes. Oxygen. When the adults started to knock and kick the lift door, their breathing rate increased. Thus, they used up more oxygen and the amount of oxygen decreased more quickly. On an average weekday, Nicole's morning routine consists of the following activities. Calorie is a unit of measurement of energy. The table below shows Nicole's use of energy for the different activities. In the diagram below, complete the graph to show the amount of oxygen used by Nicole from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. B. Predict the number of calories Nicole would use if she had to walk her child to school in the morning at a faster speed. 200 calories. Oliver went for a slow jog for 5 minutes and ran for the next 7 minutes. He rested for 15 minutes after the run. Complete the graph below to show Oliver's breathing rate after he finished running. The graphs below show the changes in the volume of air in Pauline's lungs for a period of 10 seconds before she ran and a period of 10 seconds during her run. Explain why Pauline needs to increase her rate of breathing during her run. The body needs more energy for running, so the rate of respiration increases and she needs to take in more oxygen. B. Based on the graphs given, state one other way Pauline's breathing had changed during exercise. The depth of her breathing increased.
Queenie has a condition where the wall of her windpipe swells when she inhales dust. How does the thickening of the wall of the windpipe in Queenie affect the amount of oxygen taken in by the lungs as compared to a normal person? When the wall of Queenie's windpipe thickened, less gas could pass through it. This results in a lesser amount of oxygen taken in by Queenie's lungs as compared to a normal person. While Queenie was experiencing the condition stated in E, she and a normal person recorded their breathing rate when at rest. Their readings are as shown. B. Which of the bar graphs, X or Y, represents Queenie's breathing rate? Explain your choice while making comparison with that of a normal person. X. The thickened wall of Queenie's windpipe reduced the amount of oxygen she could take in. Hence, she has to breathe faster than a normal person to take in the same amount of oxygen that her body needs for respiration. The diagram below shows the magnified view of the air sacs found in the human lungs. Medical reports states that smokers have less air sacs as compared to non-smokers. As a result, their breathing rates are always higher than non-smokers when doing the same set of prolonged strenuous exercise. Explain why. As there are less air sacs in the smoker's lungs, they have a smaller exposed surface area for gaseous exchange. While doing prolonged strenuous exercise, smokers have to breathe faster to take in more oxygen and remove more carbon dioxide from their blood. Birds and mammals are two groups of animals that breathe in the same way as humans. By considering the similarities with humans, which organ do birds and mammals have that allows them to take in air into their respiratory system? Both the duck and chimpanzee have nose or nostrils. Whales and dolphins are mammals which live in water. Where are their nose, nostrils located? Their nostrils are also called blowholes. It is located on top of their heads. They have to come to the surface of water to take in air. Frogs and salamanders belong to the group of amphibians. They are animals that can live on both land and water. How do amphibians take in air on land and in water? Amphibians take in air through their nose or nostrils on land. When they are in water, they take in air through their skin. Can you name another animal which takes in air through their skin? Earthworm. Insects do not take in air through their nose, nostrils, or moist skin. How do they obtain oxygen to respire? Insects have breathing holes. They are found at the side of their bodies and lead to tubes that carry oxygen to their internal organs.
How do some insects that live in water take in oxygen? Some insects get their air straight from the surface through breathing tubes. Some aquatic insects breathe in the air that is trapped in air bubbles on their bodies. Animals, like humans, take in air, oxygen, for respiration. The process of taking in air varies in different animals. Unlike land animals, which have lungs to take in oxygen from the air, fish take in oxygen present in water. How does oxygen get into water? Oxygen is dissolved in water. Fish have a special organ which allows them to breathe underwater for exchange of gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Do you know the name of the special organ? Gills. They can be found under the gill covers. The diagram shows how a fish gets its oxygen from the water. 1. The fish takes in water through its mouth. 2. The water washes over its gills. 3. Oxygen from the water passes through the walls of the blood vessels into the blood. Carbon dioxide passes through the walls of the blood vessels into the water. 4. Water with carbon dioxide passes out from under its gill covers.
Fish take in dissolved oxygen in the water. Water enters through the mouth and washes over the gills. The gills contain a rich supply of blood vessels that absorb oxygen. The diagram below shows a fish. Which of the following takes place at the gills of a fish? 1. Carbon dioxide is exchanged for oxygen. Study the diagrams below carefully. Which part of the fish and human will allow air from surrounding to first enter the respiratory system? B. Mouth, and X. Nose. The diagram shows a fish. Compare the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the water samples at A and at B. Then, complete the table below with higher, lower, or unchanged to show the differences. Explanation: amount of oxygen in water when entering the mouth at A is higher than exiting the gills at B. Amount of carbon dioxide in water when entering the mouth is lower and higher when exiting the gills at B. The gill filaments of the fish are thin and have many blood vessels. B. Which part of the human respiratory system performs the same function as the gill filaments of a fish? Air sacs in the lungs. C. Explain your answer in B. The gill filaments and the air sacs are both closely associated with a rich supply of blood vessels which help gas exchange. Ray observed how his pet fish breathes. For 5 days, he fed the fish but forgot to change the water in the tank. He recorded his observation of the fish in the table, as shown below. What is the relationship between the number of days the water in the tank was not changed and the number of times the fish's gill covers opened and closed in 30 seconds? As the number of days the water in the tank was not changed increased, the number of times the gill covers open and close in 30 seconds increased. B. Suggest a possible reason for the relationship stated in A. The amount of dissolved oxygen in the water in the tank decreased over the 5 days because the fish took in the oxygen. Hence, the fish had to take in more water for its required amount of dissolved oxygen to stay alive. C. Ray observed the gills of the fish closely and he noticed that there were many finger-like structures present. Explain how does these finger-like structures help the gills to function well. The finger-like structures allow a greater surface area of the gills to come into contact with the water. Hence, a greater amount of oxygen can be absorbed into the bloodstream.
Nicholas plucked some leaves and placed them into a beaker of hot water. Using the diagram, deduce if there are more bubbles formed on the upper or lower surfaces of the leaves. There are more bubbles formed on the lower surface of the leaf. Why is this so? There are more stomata found on the lower surface of the leaves. Suggest a possible reason for this. This is to keep the stomata away from direct sunlight, so as to prevent the water inside the plant from evaporating too fast. The gaseous exchange in plants take place through tiny openings, called the stomata. One such opening is called stoma. Which of the following shows where gaseous exchange takes place in a fish and a plant? 1. Fish, gills. Plant, stomata. The diagram shows the underside of a leaf. Which of the following describe the functions of X? B allows water to leave the plant as water vapor. D allows the plant to carry out gaseous exchange with the surroundings. Selena did the following to 4 similar leaves of the same plant. She left the plant out in the sun for 3 hours. Which leaf will have the least amount of water loss? 3. Leaf C. A leaf of a plant was placed in a beaker of hot water. It was observed that air bubbles form only on the upper surface of the leaf. Which of the following conclusions is correct? 3. The leaf has openings on the upper surface, but not on the lower surface.
The diagrams below show a magnified section of a leaf in the human respiratory system. Name the tiny openings, label X and state its function. Stomata. It opens and closes for gaseous exchange between the plant and the surroundings. B. Name the part of the human respiratory system that is similar to structure X. Air sacs in the lungs. C. A study was conducted on the behavior of structure X of a particular plant during the day and night. It was observed that the tiny openings of structure X were larger during the day. Explain why structure X was larger during the day. In the day, plants need to take in carbon dioxide and photosynthesize in the presence of light. Thus, the tiny openings of structure X are larger during the day to take in more carbon dioxide to make more food for the plant. Which one of the diagrams shows how blood flows in the human circulatory system? Tree. Explanation: blood flows from the lungs to the heart and to the rest of the body and goes back the other way, from the rest of the body to the heart and then back to the lungs. Which of the following parts of our body do the gills of a fish work like? Lungs. The diagrams below show an air sac, which is a small part of our lungs surrounded by a small blood vessel. Diagram A shows air moving into an air sac. Diagram B shows air moving out of the air sac. Blood flows through the small blood vessel from X to Y. Which of the following statements is correct? 3. Blood at X has a higher amount of carbon dioxide than blood at Y. Our heart beats faster too. 2. Cause blood to flow more quickly around our body.
Based on your understanding on the transportation system, state how it is similar to the human circulatory system. 1. The pathways in the transportation system are similar to all the different blood vessels in the body. 2. On these pathways, there will be trains that are traveling. Similarly, in our body, there'll be blood that's traveling through all these blood vessels. 3. There are many things found inside the blood, such as gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, proteins, red blood cells and white blood cells. Similarly, in the trains, we can find many different passengers. What are the different parts that make up the circulatory system? The heart, together with the blood vessels and blood, form the circulatory system. Which of the following is correct about the organ system in our body? 3. The skeletal system provides structural support for our body. The following human body systems work together when a person is sleeping? A. Circulatory system. B. Respiratory system. C. Digestive system. D. Skeletal system. The classification table shows the parts of two systems in a human body. Some of the parts are classified wrongly. Which parts are classified wrongly? In which system does the parts belongs to? The biceps and lungs. Biceps belong to the muscular system and lungs belong to the respiratory system. What substances are circulated around the body? The blood vessels allow blood to flow throughout the body. As it flows, it helps to circulate substances around the body. What are the substances being transported by the blood between the respiratory and circulatory systems? Oxygen and carbon dioxide. What are the substances being transported by the blood between the digestive and circulatory systems? Digested food and water. Oxygen and waste materials. Considering the substances being transported between the systems, deduce what substances are transported between the circulatory system and all parts of the body. A. Oxygen, digested food, water. B. Carbon dioxide, waste materials. The circulatory system works closely with all parts of the body, especially the respiratory and digestive systems. Blood transports oxygen, water, and digested food to the cells that require them. Blood transports carbon dioxide and waste substances away from the cells. The functions of the four body systems A, B, C and D are stated below. Skeletal system supports the body and gives it the shape. Digestive system breaks down food into simpler substances for the body to absorb. Respiratory system takes in oxygen and gives out carbon dioxide. Circulatory system transport food, oxygen, water, and waste within the body.
The diagram shows how three body systems work together. The arrows show the movement of some substances in the body. Which one of the following correctly matches substance X and body system Y and Z? 4. Substance X, oxygen. System Y, digestive system. System Z, circulatory system. The diagram shows the movement of substance P and gases Y and Z in some of the human organ systems. Which of the following correctly matches P, Q, Y, and Z? Tree. Substance P, digested food. System question circulatory system. Gas Y, oxygen. Gas Z, carbon dioxide. In the human circulatory system, the blood transport these substances. A. Water. B. Oxygen. C. Digested food. D. Carbon dioxide. F. Waste materials. The following statements are functions of the blood. B. It carries nutrients and waste materials. D. It carries oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body. What is the function of the heart? The heart undergoes a continual process where it is filled with blood before forcing the blood out to the lungs and the rest of the body. How does the heart do it? Heart is filled with blood. Heart forces the blood out to the lungs and the rest of the body. The heart is made up of heart muscles, which contract and relax. This action allows the heart to pump blood to all parts of the body. The heart is a muscular organ that pumps blood to all parts of the body. It is made up of heart muscles, which contract and relax. Adam and Ben participated in an inter-school games. During their training, their coach kept track of their fitness by measuring their heart rate before and after exercise. The table below shows the data obtained. What can you observe on the heart rate for both Adam and Ben before and after exercising? The heartbeat for both Adam and Ben increased after exercising. B. Explain what could have caused the observation made in A. When they exercised, their bodies needed more oxygen and digested food for energy. The heart beats faster to circulate more blood to the body cells for respiration to produce energy. Thus, the heart rate increases. The following statements about the heart are true. C. The heart receives blood rich in oxygen from the lungs. Leo started his exercise session with a brisk walk and then he took a rest before he continued with a few sets of jumping jacks. Which of the following graphs best represents his heart rate from the start to the end of his exercise session? 4. Kelvin did the following activities, one after the other. First, he jogged for 10 minutes. Then he sat down and stretched for 10 minutes. Finally, he read a book for another 10 minutes. Which of the graphs below shows his heart rate over the 30 minutes? 2.
Nancy carried out an experiment to find out the change in her pulse rate after doing different exercises. After each exercise, she measured and recorded her pulse rate in a graph as shown. Arrange the exercises, starting with the least vigorous to the most vigorous. D, B, A, C. B. Using your answer in A. Explain the relationship between how vigorous the exercise is and her pulse rate. As the exercise gets more vigorous, her pulse rate increases. The graph below shows Moses' number of heartbeats per minute during 3 different activities, X, Y, and Z. Based on the information in the graph above, answer the following questions. A. Which activity, X, Y, or Z, shows that Moses was resting? Z. B. Which activity, X, Y, or Z, was the most vigorous activity that Moses was engaged in? Explain your answer. Activity X. Moses' heartbeat per minute was the highest when he was engaged in the activity. This shows that his heart had to beat faster to ensure that there is sufficient oxygen and digested food for all parts of the body. Joey was walking to the bus stop when she saw her bus approaching. She ran as fast as she could to the bus. She caught it and found a seat. The graph below shows Joey's pulse rate over 30 seconds. Fill in the blanks below. Joey ran for 4 seconds. 2. Joey stopped running at the 22nd second. Hansen was the fastest among his classmates at the start of a race. After 3 minutes, he was taking short and quick breaths and his heart began to beat faster. Explain why Hansen had to take short and quick breaths after 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, his body required more oxygen and digested food to produce more energy during respiration. He also had to remove the carbon dioxide produced by his cells. Thus, the heart had to pump faster so that more oxygen and digested food can be transported to the cells and more carbon dioxide can be removed. Pauline recorded some of her morning activities in the table as shown. She also measured her heart rate during the activities mentioned in the table above. Complete the line graph to represent Pauline's heart rate from 7:15 a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m. B. State 2 substances that are being transported in Pauline's blood to her muscles to help her in the activities mentioned above. Oxygen and digested food. Olivia conducted an experiment to find out how the number of star jumps she did affected her heart rate. She recorded her results in the table below. What is the relationship between Olivia's heart rate and the number of star jumps she did? As the number of star jumps Olivia did increases, her heart rate increases. B. Why did Olivia repeat the experiment 3 times? To ensure that her results are reliable and to reduce the chances of error. C. Circle in the table above which reading was wrongly measured.
How does the circulatory system transport blood? The diagram shows the exchange of blood in the human body. The direction on the arrows represent the direction of blood flow in blood vessels A, B, C, and D. Characteristics of the blood observed in blood vessels A and B. The blood vessels carry blood rich in carbon dioxide. The blood picks up carbon dioxide produced by the cells in the other parts of the body and transported to the heart before going to the lungs to be exhaled. Characteristics of the blood observed in blood vessels C and D. The blood vessels carry blood rich in oxygen. At the lungs, carbon dioxide is removed and oxygen is taken in by the blood and transported to the heart before going to all parts of the body. Deoxygenated blood is first sent to the heart. The heart will then pump the blood to the lungs where gas exchange takes place. The heart pumps blood rich in oxygen to all the cells in the body. The diagram below shows the flow of blood in the blood vessels among the lungs, heart, and the rest of the body. Which one of the following is correct? Blood flowing in vessel B carries more oxygen than that in vessel A. The diagram below shows how blood flows through our body. The following statements are correct. 1. The blood at A contains less oxygen than the blood at C. 2. The blood at B contains more oxygen than the blood at D. 4. The blood at D contains more carbon dioxide than the blood at C. Which is the correct route taken by blood traveling from a leg to an arm in the human body? 4. Leg, heart, lungs, heart, arm. Explanation: from the rest of the body, there will be a pathway of blood going to the heart and then going to the lungs. Then, on the other side, there will also be a pathway from the lungs to the heart and then to the rest of the body. Which one of the following diagrams correctly shows the flow of blood in a human body? 4. Explanation: with the heart as the central pump and exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with the lungs. So the rest of the body will go to the heart, and then it will go to the lungs to pick up oxygen, go back to the heart, then it will go to the head. The head goes back to the heart and then to the legs.
The diagram below shows how blood travels in the human body. Arrows A, B, C and D represent the movement of blood. Which arrow is incorrect? 2. B. Explanation: the brain is considered the rest of the body. It cannot go back to the lungs, because the lungs is not able to pump blood anywhere else. It is not a pump.
Ray took part in a triathlon. The graph shows his heart rate, number of heart beats per minute, over a period of an hour during this activity. For the following statements on the line XY, it is true. Respiration occurs at a faster rate. True. More carbon dioxide is produced by Ray's body. True. Ray's heart is pumping blood to his lungs at a faster rate. True. In a human, oxygen is absorbed by the red blood cells in the blood of the lungs. Lenny has a blood condition where the number of red blood cells are far fewer than a normal person. Compare the amount of oxygen Lenny can absorb at his lungs with that of a normal person. The amount of oxygen Lenny can absorb would be lesser than that of a normal person. The diagram shows the direction of blood flow in the blood vessels P and Q in Jacob's arm. Compare the difference between the amount of oxygen at P and at Q. Explain your answer. There is more oxygen in the blood at P as compared to that at Q. The cells in the arm are undergoing respiration at a higher rate. Thus, they will use up oxygen from the blood. B. Describe how oxygen from Jacob's lungs reaches his arm. Oxygenated blood from the lungs flows to the heart. The heart in turn transports the blood to Jacob's arm. For blood samples, A, B, C and D were taken from different blood vessels in a human body and represented by 4 arrows in the diagram below. Blood samples C and D carry blood rich in oxygen. Which blood sample has more oxygen? Blood sample C. The cells in the heart would have used up some of the oxygen in the blood before the heart pumps the blood to the rest of the body. Blood samples A and B carry blood rich in carbon dioxide. Which blood sample has more carbon dioxide? Blood sample B. The cells in the heart would produce carbon dioxide as they respire before the heart pumps the blood back to the lungs. Arrange the blood samples A, B, C and D based on the amount of oxygen they carry. C, D, A, B. Most, least. For blood samples, A, B, C, and D were taken from different blood vessels in the human body and represented by 4 arrows in the diagram. The graph below shows the amount of oxygen in each blood sample. Which blood sample best represents the amount of oxygen in blood vessel X? 4. D.
The graph shows the concentration of oxygen in 4 blood samples taken. Which sample is most likely to be taken from the blood vessel which carries blood from the heart to the lungs? 1. A. For blood samples, M, N, O and P were taken from different blood vessels in a body. The graph shows the amount of carbon dioxide in each of these blood samples. Which blood samples were most likely taken from the following blood vessels? 2. Blood vessels carrying blood from lungs to heart P. Blood vessels carrying blood from heart to lungs O. The diagram shows how blood flows in certain parts of the body after a meal. Same amount of blood samples were taken from parts A, B, C and D. Which of the following is correct? 1. Blood A has more oxygen than blood B. Blood B has less digested food than blood C. The bar chart below shows the amount of oxygen in 4 blood samples taken from 4 blood vessels A, B, C and D in the human circulatory system. Which blood sample A, B, C or D represents the blood vessels that carries blood from the rest of the body back to the heart? D. B. Explain how blood is transported to the lungs and why it needs to be transported there. The heart pumps blood low in oxygen to the lungs. At the lungs, gaseous exchange occurs to remove carbon dioxide from the blood and take in oxygen for cells to carry out respiration. C. Explain why blood flows faster to the other parts of the body when we jog. When we are jogging, the cells of the body use our oxygen at a faster rate. Thus, to ensure they have sufficient oxygen for respiration, the heart has to pump faster so that blood flows faster to these cells. Keith went for a medical checkup. His doctor showed him how a healthy blood vessel looks like as compared to his blood vessel in the diagram below. The doctor said that he has a higher risk of getting a heart attack where his heart would stop beating. The doctor reminded him that all his organs in the body need blood rich in oxygen for them to work well. Explain why Keith is at higher risk of a heart attack. There are excess fats in Keith's blood vessels. If these excess fats completely block his blood vessels, his heart will not be able to receive enough oxygen. Hence, it will stop beating and Keith would get a heart attack. B. Suggest what Keith could do if he wants to lower his risk of getting a heart attack. Keith could control his diet by consuming food with lesser fats, and he could also exercise more to reduce the fats in his body.
The diagram below shows two different kinds of blood vessels found in the human body. Using the diagram, state one similarity between blood vessel A and B. Both blood vessels allow blood to only flow in one direction. Both blood vessels have a muscle wall. B. Using the diagram, state two differences between blood vessels A and B. Blood vessel has a thick muscle wall, while blood vessel B has a thin muscle wall. Blood vessel B, unlike blood vessel A, has valves. C. The artery carries blood away from the heart. It has to withstand high pressure from the fast-flowing blood to be pumped from the heart without bursting. Which blood vessel, A or B, is most likely to be an artery? Give a reason to support your answer. Blood vessel A. It has a thicker muscle wall, which will ensure that the blood vessel can withstand the high pressure without bursting. Human circulatory system versus plant transport system. L. The human circulatory system transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, digested food, water, and waste materials around the body. The plant transport system consists of food-carrying tubes and water-carrying tubes. These tubes can be found at roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits of the plant. Compare the human circulatory system with the plant transport system. State one similarity between the two systems. The blood vessels, human circulatory system, and the food-carrying tubes and water-carrying tubes, plant transport system, both circulate nutrients and water around the organism. State one difference between the two systems. The heart in the human circulatory system pumps materials around the body, whereas the plant transport system does not have any organ to move materials around. The plant transport system and the human circulatory system perform a similar role to ensure the essential substances are transported around the organisms. The following statements about the human and plant transport systems are correct. A human needs an organ to pump blood to transport materials around the body. B. No organs are needed by a plant to transport materials around the plant.
Monica made a comparison between humans and plants in the table below. The following comparisons was correct. Humans, oxygen is taken in through the nose. Plants, oxygen is taken in through the stomata. Humans, blood vessels transport different substances around the body. Plants, food-carrying tubes and water-carrying tubes transport different substances around the plant. Humans, water enters the body through the mouth. Plants, water enters the plant through the roots. Humans, a heart is required to pump substances around the body. Plants, no organs is needed to pump substances through the tubes. The diagrams below show a human circulatory system and a stalk of white flower in a container of water. 3 students made the following comments about the diagrams. The following students made the correct statements. Omar, blood circulates around the body as there is a heart to pump the blood around. Paul, blood circulates around the body, but the blue dye in the beaker only moves upwards to the leaves and flowers through the stem. The diagrams show the direction of flow of materials in the human circulatory system and the plant transport system. For the following statements, state if it is true or false. The plant transport system has 2 different types of tubes, whereas the human circulatory system has blood vessels. The pictures show the plant transport system and the human circulatory system. Name 2 substances that are transported in the plant and the human circulatory system. Water and nutrients. B. Besides those mentioned in A. State one other similarity between the plant and the human circulatory system. There are blood vessels in the human circulatory system, while there are food-carrying tubes and water-carrying tubes in the plant transport system to transport substances around the organisms.
The circulatory system of birds and mammals are similar to humans. Birds, mammals, and humans use a double circulatory system. This means that blood flows in one direction through the lungs and back to the heart, and flows another direction throughout the rest of the body and back to the heart. The diagram below shows the circulatory system in fish. Circulatory system of fishes. Fishes use a single circulatory system. The heart pumps the blood to the gills where gas exchange occurs and the blood is reoxygenated. The blood then continues through the rest of the body before arriving back at the heart. State one similarity between the fish circulatory system and the human circulatory system. Both circulatory systems require a heart to pump blood around the body. State the difference in the flow of blood in the fish circulatory system and the human circulatory system. For the fish, the oxygenated blood from the gills is circulated to the rest of the body first before going to the heart. For human, oxygenated blood is circulated from the lungs to the heart and then to the rest of the body. Fishes take in and give out air using gills. The following statements are correct. E. Blood flowing from the gills to the heart is rich in oxygen. D. Carbon dioxide is removed from the blood in the gills and flows out in the water under the gill covers. The diagram of the circulatory system of a fish and human are shown below. The following comparisons is correct. Similarity: blood is transported in blood vessels. Difference: blood flows through the heart twice in a human, but once in a fish. Lily compared the characteristics of a fish and a plant as below. The following comparisons are true. Fish has blood vessels to transport digested food and water. Plant has tubes to transport food and water. Fish has gills for gaseous exchange. Plant has tiny openings on leaves for gaseous exchange.
The diagrams below show the circulatory systems of two organisms, a fish and a mammal. The arrows represent the direction of blood flow in the blood vessels. Based on the diagrams above, the following statements are correct. Only blood vessels X, P, and Q carry oxygen-rich blood. The diagram below shows the direction flow of blood in a fish and flow of substances in a plant. The following statements are correct. The plant removes water through the leaves and absorbs water through the roots. The oxygen enters the blood vessels at the gills and carbon dioxide in the blood leaves. The blood vessels at the gills. The diagrams below show how gases are transported in the circulatory systems of a fish and a man. Fill in A, B, C, D, E, F and G for the levels of carbon dioxide. Low level of carbon dioxide, A, D, E. High level of carbon dioxide, B, C, G, H. The diagram below shows the circulatory system of a human and a fish. The arrow represents the blood vessels in a human and a fish. Identify organs P and Q. I. Organ P, lungs. 2. Organ question gills. B. State one similarity between organs P and Q. Organ P and Q is where gaseous exchange takes place in a human and a fish. C. State one difference between organs P and Q. Organ P takes in oxygen from the surrounding air while organ Q takes in dissolved oxygen from the water. The diagram below shows how blood flows in a fish. P represents the blood vessels that carries blood directly from the gills to other parts of the body. Q and R represent the blood vessels that carry blood from other parts of the body back to the gills. The amount of oxygen in blood P is represented in the bar graph below. Draw the amount of oxygen in blood Q and R in the graph above. B. Give a reason for your answer in A. The fish takes in dissolved oxygen from the water into its blood at its gills. Thus, the level of oxygen at P is the highest. The rest of the body takes in oxygen as it respires, so the level of oxygen at R is lower than P. The heart of the fish takes in oxygen as well, so the level of oxygen at Q is the lowest before the deoxygenated blood goes back to the gills.
When someone has an injured lung, the lung cannot expand fully. The diagram below shows the lungs of a person with a healthy lung and an injured lung. A person with an injured lung breathes more quickly than a person with healthy lungs. Explain why this happens based on the function of lungs. The injured lung has a lower rate of gaseous exchange.